Y'all planning for this?
Hello, TPR Nation. This is Jamie Shalansky in an episode of Worlds to Conquer, where today we are going to unpack some important lessons that I had reiterated to me just this last year when I started working to my team. So every now and then you need to do what's referred to as an up-periscope, and that's where you pop your head above the surface water and you just kind of look around to make sure that everything that you as the financial advisor, you as the business entrepreneur, you as the practice manager implemented is actually going as successfully as the theory in your mind outlined it to be. So one of the things that I find with my team at Shalansky & Associates, we are a registered investment advisory firm in Anchorage, Alaska. Half of our clients are in the lower 48 and half of them are Alaska residents. We have 5, almost 6 financial advisors working with us. And then we have a bunch of support team. Our support team consists of pods. We have financial advisors in one pods. Those are the ones that meet with clients on a regular basis and they provide financial advice. And then we have our relationship managers. Our relationship managers have the most point of contact with a client throughout the year. They are not licensed individuals. They are not somebody that gives financial advice, but they do facilitate the client relationship and they do make sure the client is being taken care of on a regular basis. And then we have our operations team. Our operations team is responsible for the movement of money. They are licensed in some cases, and so some of them have different responsibilities than the other. And they are responsible for making sure money moves as efficiently as we tell the clients it's going to in the conference room. So they do rollovers and transfers and contributions and distributions, and they handle all of the custodian needs as well as the executing the outlined investment strategy from the financial advisor. So we have those pods set up and we have leads for each of those pods. So we have a lead for our operations team and we have a lead for our relationship management team. And then they go and execute with their team members all of the things that we as the CEOs of the company tell them to go and do. So as the C-suite organizes things that we want to see implemented each quarter or each year when we're outside of surge, then it's our lead's responsibility to make sure those things happen. And so sometimes we articulate things in our minds a lot clearer than what our employees actually hear. And we had that instance happen this last year where we really had to kind of slam on the brakes and say, hold on a second, there's a complete disconnect between what I said, what you heard, and what's being done. And that's when you need to have that up-periscope meeting, because even though we talk about delivering massive value all of the time with our team members, and we are dedicated to providing them with a professional development bonus so that they can continually every single year escalate the level of service that they are providing and the intellectual capacity that they have as rock star team members. That doesn't mean they always know every intricate detail that's going on in our heads. And a lot of times you will have A-list employees want to tell you, yep, got it, understood, no problem, and not ask any questions. And that is almost always when they don't understand it, they don't got it, and it is not good. And that you need to have the responsibility as that financial advisor, as that leader, as that entrepreneur, to sit down and say, hold on, let's go through this step by step. Let's make sure that we're doing what we said we were going to do and that we're flushing out all of the steps, especially with us financial advisors. We run at a very high level. And so in our mind, we're like, oh yeah, just make this happen. And then we wave our magical wand. We expect fairy dust to fly out of it. And that our team of unicorns just goes prancing around the prairie of abundance and making things happen for us. That is not the case. That is not how it actually happens. Sometimes it is torrential warfare. Sometimes it is us sitting down there in the mud and the dirt and the sticks and having famine and going through things. And it is not always a pretty sight. So we must have a balance between those two mythical worlds and making sure that things are happening the way that they should for our clients. So this last year, I sat down with my team and I said, okay, I want each one of you to go out to your team members, and we created like this survey system, and we wanted to ask 3 questions. I wanted to ask each employee for their feedback about, 1, where do we as a firm spend a lot of time on, but little value to the client is actually being provided? Second question, where are we spending little time on, but would be of so much more value to the client if we spent more time towards this? And then 3, what in your words is your responsibility? All right, let's unpack these 3 questions so you can take immediate action, whether you're a solo practitioner or you're in an enterprise office with multiple financial advisors, and really see where your team is at. Okay, where do we spend a lot of time on, but little value to the client is actually being provided? This was really important to me because we talk about delivering massive value all of the time to the clients. And one of the things that I ended up discovering is because we thought that this concierge level of service, our team members, especially because if you're a relationship manager, one of the first programs I love for you to use your professional development on is to go to a Ritz-Carlton training in service excellence. And it is a phenomenal program. They've been doing it for over 20 years. They've really refined this process. I've never had an employee come back and not be better in their role than when they've gone to this class. So if you're thinking of hiring a relationship manager and you're wondering how to get them the training that they need, even though the Ritz-Carlton is dedicated towards the hospitality industry, they teach everyone. They teach everyone in different areas of business because they have refined their whole customer service excellence, I think down to 12 certain steps. So I teach this class informally, not as sponsored by the Ritz-Carlton, but I teach it informally and I give those 12 service values out to most of the business employees that I work with. And I say, listen, we're ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. Here's this code of conduct. Here's this etiquette. Here's what we need to remember all of the times when we're providing service. So our relationship managers really take this to heart. They're phenomenal at really elevating the relationship with the client and providing a concierge level experience. However, with that being said, there was also a misunderstanding that every communication they had with the client, every time they talked to the client was of value to the client. And that's not true. You're not always picking up the phone and providing value. Value is defined by having a level of importance or usefulness. And so we had to sit down and we had to really flesh that out with our team members and say, listen, calling them to confirm their appointment 3 different times, that's not useful. That's not important. Calling them one time, that's useful and important. Otherwise, it's just nagging. And so we started going through all of the calls that they were making or felt when they needed to make to the client. And then we really refined when it was a value and when it was not a value. And so when I asked them, where do we spend a lot of time on, but little value to the client is actually being provided, I got really different feedback from both teams. Now, when I executed this 3-question survey, here's how I did it. I gave it to both my leads and my relationship manager and my ops. I told my relationship managers that their team members could not give me this questionnaire back for 1 week. They could not return it to me because relationship managers would sit down and fire off everything like I was reading their diary and give it to me the same day. They would love this kind of task, asking them about their thoughts, asking them about their feelings, asking them for their input. And I didn't want their theories. I wanted the reality. So I wanted them to take time, genuinely reflect on this, and then give me a response. Now, opposite with my operations team. My operations team, I had to give them a deadline or I would never get the form back because everything else that they're doing is such a priority in their mind's eye because the relationship managers, they have the same amount of priorities. And so the operations team would never give me this form back if I did not assign some type of date or deadline towards it. So instead, for them, I gave them a date or deadline. I always give my operations team a deadline twice as long as my relationship management team, if possible, because they need time to warm up to ideas and they need time to think on their thoughts before articulating them. And so I always like to give that courtesy to them. How do I know that? Because before I hire anyone, we always run the DISC report. Colby also does this. So there's a lot of different ones. It's a behavioral analysis. And I do that so that I make sure I'm not putting square pegs in round holes and I've got the right people in the right position on the bus. And so I know that those people that are super detail oriented are going to need time to evaluate. So some of the responses that I got were really mind-blowing for me, and it gave me a really good opportunity to look from their perspective and say, wow, we're doing a lot of tax follow-up. And the reason is that 15, 16 years ago, there was a misunderstanding between a CPA and a client and the financial advisor. The financial advisor in our office got a question from the client and said, hey, have my taxes been taken care of? The financial advisor reached out to the CPA. The CPA said, yep, they're done. And so the financial advisor said, just heard from your CPA, your taxes are done. Client left, went out of country. Well, the word done had varied definitions. What the CPA meant as done was that they were signed, executed. So that was a good thing, right? Because I think most of us were like, uh-oh, they were prepared, but not actually signed and sent. Nope, they were signed and sent. But their tax payment of $20,000 was never included in their tax return. And there was no EFT or anything set up for the funds to go out. So all of a sudden, the client is traveling and they're out of country and they get a nasty gram from the IRS that says, hey, you didn't pay your taxes. This is your bill. This is your late fees. These are your penalties and everything else associated. Client calls financial advisor, says, WTF. You told me that they were done. So now we redefined what the word done means. And so we created a policy. We said, hey, listen, in our office, if we tell the client is done, we need to actually confirm that it is 100% done and that it has been completed. Now, that's what we said because we wanted to avoid that scenario. But what our team heard is that until they had confirmation from the CPA and the client that the return was signed and a copy of the negotiated check or confirmation that payment was sent, they were going to continually call the client and they were going to continually call the CPA. So this created a situation where it begins to alienate centers of influence. Who wants to be called 85 times to know if you did your job or not? It was really, really annoying. And then the client didn't find any value of it because they were like, hey, I've been paying taxes a long time. I made my payment. I don't need to show you proof I made my payment. I did it. And so we had to really sit down with them and redefine what that process looked like. I would have never known that that was what going on repetitively had I not asked the question, where do we spend a lot of time on, but little value to the client is provided? And then I get that answer. All right, the second question I asked was, where are we spending little time on, but would be of so much more value to the client if we dedicated more time towards it? And I was surprised to hear that the feedback was that when it came to prospects, because we had something like, I forget the exact number, but it was like 181 prospects reach out to us. It was a pretty significant number last year. And they said, the relationship managers reported, hey, I am spending a lot of time explaining to prospects that our financial fact finder, which is the 12-page laborious document that we give to prospects, isn't fillable. And I said, what do you mean it's not fillable? Yes, it is. I created a PDF years ago. And they said, yeah, it was like 15 years ago and it's become antiquated and they can't fill it out. They actually have to print it down or they have to mark it up or, they're having some type of experience that's less than desirable for them to fill out this form and return it to us online. Now, when I heard that, I said, okay, I got together with Micah and I were collaborating and I said, hey, listen, this is some of the feedback. And he said, well, great news is that we're trying to make this form online for the clients to go ahead and fill out, but it has a lot of client sensitive information inside of it. And so we can't just make it a Google form. We can't just make it something unsecure because it asks for really identifiable information inside of this document. And so Micah's comment was, hey, great news. We're already working on a tech development for that. And I said, that's wonderful, but we've been telling the team that for 3 years. So instead, what I went to my relationship managers and I said, hey, I'm going to give you a $500 allowance, go out to Upwork, find somebody that can create the PDF that you want it to be. And then I want you to go to every single team member, not just the relationship managers, because the relationship managers are going to look at something and see how beautiful it is. They're not going to necessarily see the functionality side of it. That's just not the strength of theirs. And so I want them to go out to every single team member and have every single team member complete this form. You just mark it up, right? They don't have to go laboriously through it and fill out every field, but they have to go play and click around on every single field and put in information on their desktop, on a tablet, and on a mobile device. And so if we have it across the board and then give that person feedback, fantastic. Now, that's a $500 solution that actually ended up costing us about $230 once we got the bids in. And it was a huge, significant relief to our team that now they had this time with the prospects that they could just deliver this form instead of constantly having to explain how to print it down, how to use their device to mark it up, what kind of tablet do you have, etc. They were spending a lot of time doing IT technical things, which we are not in the business of doing. And so instead, we just use the resources to figure out, okay, how do we make this a better client experience? But most importantly, how do we make it a better experience for our team? so that when they are asking prospects to pay $500 and come fill out this form to meet with one of our financial advisors, they feel really confident about asking them to do so. You may have designed or created something in Word or Docs or a spreadsheet that you think, because it's your baby, is absolutely genius and easy to complete and easy to fill out. But if your team is not getting it completed and filled out for you, they don't think so. So you need to make sure you go through this exercise of working with them, because they're going to give you feedback on whether or not it's a value, whether or not they understand it, and then also what the clients and prospects may not be saying to you as the financial advisor about their experience. Other feedback that we receive that we spend little time on but would be of more value is we do a phenomenal value add of a net worth report. We have a very unique looking net worth report that makes it really simple and eager for clients to provide you with information and feel confident about seeing their number continue to escalate. So in that net worth report, some of our operations team came back and said, hey, listen, our net worth report is great, but one of the questions we are often asked by spouses that are married and living together is what happens if one of us dies? Could we create a death worth report? That's a phenomenal idea. One spouse dies, do you lose half the pension? Do you lose the Social Security? One of the biggest myths in financial planning and estate planning is that if two people live in a household and they spend $6,000 a month and one of them die, then that they're going to spend $3,000. That is not true. That's not how death math works most of the time. And so being able to go through that death worth report, being able to show them what they would have or wouldn't have, what they're going to lose or gain, is really, really powerful. And so that is something that we're saying, hey, that's a wonderful idea. Let's collaborate on what that looks like. We've got all the information from the net worth report. Let's look and see now, how do we create the death worth report so we can answer those tough questions that are most often asked by the female person in that household. Remember, as the financial advisor, if you're setting up Surge properly in your office, and this works for everyone across the country, is that if you are having Surge like we have it, and remember, take our dates. We spent 40 years massaging and finessing these dates and figuring out what works for clients, not what works for you, not what necessarily works for your team, what works best for clients. And then, yes, that means making hard calls. And we've had that oftentimes happen where people are like, hey, in March, I really love to go skiing and the best skiing happens there. Can we move Surge? No, we're not moving Surge. This is when Surge happens because this is when it delivers the most amount of value to our clients. So our Surge dates for Shalansky & Associates and RA in Anchorage, Alaska, where half of our clients are in the lower 48. We spend half of March and half of April in Surge. Why? Our spring Surge is when people are getting all of their documents together for the CPA, and it makes the most amount of sense for them to give you a copy. We are inundated with information that we could spend all year asking for if we do this during Surge time. And then if you're thinking of rolling out the net worth report like we talked about, that is a great summertime value add because you just had time to go through all of the documents that they gave you during that spring Surge time. We do mini Surges. We pepper in mini Surges so that clients and most importantly, our relationship managers feel that we have dedicated times to get back to clients and answer their questions if things come up. And then we do a fall Surge. Our fall Surge is our next big Surge, and that's going to happen mid-October to mid-November. Why those dates? Kids are back in school. Holidays are wrapped up. It's perfect time for Roth conversions. It's perfect time for tax planning. We do a lot of business planning with clients as well if they have businesses. And so fall dates work really well. This also works in unison with estate planning attorneys if we're doing a lot of estate planning during that time frame, because families get together and you realize, I don't think I'm going to leave you quite as much as I thought I was going to once you had turkey dinner. So do not try to reinvent the wheel. Do what works. We have spent, like I said, 40 years massaging this time frame, looking at it and saying exactly when Surge works best for clients across the country. So please make sure to implement this. If you are not implementing Surge, it is the most powerful new policy you will do in your office that transforms your practice. Remember, the perfect RA is about the pursuit of perfection, of creating a perfect RA. And that means we want to deliver massive value to clients. We want to spend more time outside the office with the people we love, and we want to be highly profitable. Surge allows us to do all three of those tenets and live in our truths, and is really dynamic for our team because now they understand what goes into the preparation of documentation for Surge, what happens during Surge, and what needs to happen when we're outside of Surge. It sets a good cadence for the financial advisor, but mostly it sets a good cadence for the rest rest of your support team that is going to be facilitating you all year long. So when we are outside of Surge, I never ask these questions like this during Surge, but when we're outside of Surge, we ask questions like this. In fact, if we want to make a change, a suggestion, or we want to ask a question about the practice inside of Surge, we create a post-Surge whiteboard. This used to be when we were all physically in office, an actual whiteboard in our office. Since half of our team is in a hybrid situation where they work from anywhere, what we do instead is we create a space. We use Google Chat for an internal messaging system, and we create a space called post-Surge notes. And then during Surge, we will put all of our notes and thoughts and ideas so that when we have our post-Surge meeting, that we can take action on them. We take no action or make any changes during Surge. That is a hard rule. And barring some type of crisis, we do not make any changes during Surge, period, across the board. And during March of 2020, we really put this theory to test because we had literally just started Surge when the whole world shut down with the COVID pandemic. And our team was looking at us like, okay, are we going to close up office? Is this the end of the world? Is the stock market going to decline and tank? And this is when we really rallied and we doubled down. We were not afraid to pick up the phone. We continued with our Surge. And then the people that we had already met with in order to recall them post the whole world shutting down for the COVID pandemic. Now, one exception that we did make as a firm is that we did get everyone together on a Saturday morning after, I think it was that Friday that the world shut down. And we had the entire team together, the C-suite in our office. We got together ahead of time. We made up a disaster recovery plan. We talked about, and that went literally in our compliance file. And we said, okay, disaster recovery, here's the steps that we're going to take. Here's what's going to happen. And here's going to show up to the office. And here's who's not going to show up. This is what happens if somebody gets sick. This is what's going to happen if somebody dies. Talk about having your succession plan in place. Because in the first days that the pandemic was declared, none of us really knew what was going on. Now, post-pandemic, we all have really strong opinions about then, but in those first couple of days, everyone was just kind of looking around like, is this real? Is this the apocalypse? Is this going to take out a third of the world? None of us knew. And so what we had a responsibility as business owners to do was to come up with a plan. And then after we came up with a plan, we sat there and the lead financial advisors in our office, we said exactly what we were going to talk to clients about. And all financial advisors were on the exact same page. We were going to say the exact same thing and set the framework with clients that if the world shut down for more than 3 days, because we have banking holidays, right? And that we're normally used to being shut down for 3 days. But if it lasted longer than 3 days and went on, we were looking at a potential 5-year recovery. Why? Why do we say 5 years? Were we alive during the Spanish flu? No, we were not. The only thing that we can do as financial advisors is make historical predictions. And so we looked back over history and we said, great, under these significant events, how long did the market on average take to recover from where it was at? And then we had to stay the course. We had to provide our clients with stewardship and advice that the world was going to be okay, that markets would rebound, that we would get better, that it was going to be all right for everyone. And then we had to turn around and have that same conversation with our team members because we couldn't add to the panic. They were calling us with advice. My God, what do we do? Do we sell our investments, go 100% to cash? Are the markets going to even be there, et cetera? And so we had those tough conversations with clients, and we made sure the financial advisors in our office were not afraid to pick up the phone, that they were calling clients. This is when you should rise and not sink. This is what makes you great and not average. And so we were going above and beyond. Now, in addition to that, during that time period, we also rolled out through Plan Your Federal Retirement that if people were concerned before they moved to the G Fund, we would absorb and waive the financial planning, the initial consultation fee in order for somebody to call our office and have a consultation with a financial advisor. Why did we do that? Was it a marketing ploy? Only if you look at it retrospectively. At that time, what we didn't want to see was another global financial crisis where you had people panicking, not knowing who to talk to, dumping all of their assets and going to the G Fund. Now, there's a good 50-50 chance that could have been the right thing for them to do. No one can control what was going to happen, but we wanted to provide people with a sounding board and some type of stewardship before they made a consequential financial decision based on an emotional time in history. And we went out to our financial advisors and we said, hey, listen, we're all going to tack on an extra week of surge during this crisis. And we're going to talk to as many people as we possibly can so that we can do what we have the responsibility to do as financial advisors, which is to provide that guidance, provide that stewardship, and make sure people are taken care of. So that is an example where we made a slight change during a time of crisis to our surge and what we were going to do. But it also reinforces that in a lot of ways, we didn't change our surge. We continued with exactly the same discipline that we were going into prior to surge happening. We wanted to make sure that we kept the same momentum. We kept our team really focused because it was really important, especially because we had multiple generations working in our office. And for many of them, they were too young to have gone through 9/11. They didn't understand the global impact of that. And the global financial crisis didn't impact them financially. They might have seen people go through it, but it was very kind of distant for them. So we had a responsibility as stewards of our practice to make sure that they knew the only thing that we can control was our own actions. So here's all the safeguards that we were going to take, and here's everything that we were going to do, and everything that we were going to concentrate on a firm for the benefit of delivering value to our clients. And I really think that was unintentionally critical for our team members because it kept them in the headspace that they had to turn off the noise of the news. They could focus on things that they can control, and that they could feel a sense of worthiness, and that they had people that were in their community all marching together towards the same common goal, which was delivering value to our clients and making sure that they were taken care of. I hope as you listen to this, you ran your practice very similarly to ours during that time period. And if not, that you are developing policies and procedures that you would, because this isn't the only crisis that we'll ever go through as a country and as a global population. Okay, TPR Nation, you know that the Perfect RA is in the pursuit of perfection. We are constantly talking and collaborating and meeting with other advisors and going across the industry to multiple organizations looking for financial advisors that want to collaborate. No smoke, no mirrors. Let's bring it together. Let's deliver the most amount of value to our clients so that we can spend more time outside the office with the people that we love and be highly profitable. We need to be highly profitable. This is an area of contention, and we get a lot of flack from some advisors about profitability. You have a responsibility to run your business profitably. You have a responsibility to yourself, to your family, to your employees, and to your clients to actually remain in business for multiple years. They're counting on you to be there when you retire. So check the ego, do what works, and please don't reinvent the wheel. The reason that we're sharing this through our incredible podcast that has over 1 million downloads from people listening to it, implementing, and delivering value to their clients on a regular basis. Every single quarter, we have a Nation webinar where Matthew Jarvis and Micah Shalansky jump online with Amber, our podcast curator, and they deliver content based on things that you, as financial advisors, have emailed us at lifestyle@theperfectra and said, hey, I want more information on this particular subject. I am struggling with this. And then for our members, they have access to our portal. We have 2 types of membership: Backstage Pass. That's like your gym membership. You go in, you figure it out yourself after you see all the equipment. And then our Invictus. And Invictus is for people that are serious, that are going to put their money where their mouth is, that they want to 4X their practice in the next couple of years so that they can deliver more value, spend more time with their family, and be highly profitable in the process. They want that one-on-one coaching. This is the personal training part of it. If you are curious if Invictus is right for you, then get on the calendar with Tracy Ottinger. She is our Chief Growth Officer, and she will deliver so much phenomenal value about the things that we provide inside of Invictus that you're going to write her a check by the end of your phone call. No questions asked. It's time to go. But don't think for 1 second she's just some easygoing salesperson, because she'll also tell you if it's not right for you. She'll also tell you if she doesn't think that you have the conviction to really 4X your practice and be serious about doing what you said you're going to do. Invictus is not for people who belong to a mastermind and write down the same 3 goals over and over, year after year, and make no plans to actually achieve them. Invictus is for the people that say, hell yes, yes, foot on the gas pedal. The road is wide open. Let's hammer down and go somewhere. What makes the Perfect RA different than most coaching platforms out there for financial advisors is that this is not theory. This is fact. This is actual advice by financial advisors, not people who speculate what it is like to talk to the client when the markets are down 20% across the board. These are financial advisors like myself, Jamie Shalansky, like Micah Shalansky, my brother, and Matthew Jarvis, who have each spent years working with clients, sitting with prospects, going through their practice, working with team members, and refining things. When we tell you to do what works, it is not because we think our way is the best. It is because we just spent decades learning the hard way about what doesn't work. And so the things that we provide to our members inside of the Perfect RA have already been tested through hundreds of households so that we make sure that we deliver the most amount of value. And a lot of times with our value adds that we have inside of our portal for our members are the second or third versions of something because they first blew up in our face and we had to go back and refine what it looked like so that it delivered massive value to our clients. So action item number 1, do what works. Join the Perfect RA. Be a part of the collaboration that is going to transform the industry by delivering massive value to clients and putting that always, always first. Develop these value adds. Take what we are doing and deliver to your clients on a regular basis. Second action item, and we mentioned this before, do surge. Use our dates. Do not sit there and try to create your own, especially if you're about to implement this. Do what works with our dates. They were refined over decades for a specific reason. Now, once you've implemented them and you've run them for about 3 times in a row, if you want to plus or minus them a week or 2, totally fine. But other than that, do our dates. All right, third action, and we started talking about this. You have to up Periscope with your team. You have to, as a business owner, practice manager, financial advisor, you have to sit there and ask your team the important questions, and then you need to shut up and listen to their answers. Give them an opportunity to talk about what is and isn't working for your practice without you telling them in theory how it should work. And so for me, I sat out and I asked my pods 3 different questions. I have my relationship managers, the people, my operations team responsible for the movement of money, and I asked them to give me 3 answers to 3 different questions. Question number 1, where do we spend a lot of time on, but is of little value to the client? Question number 2, where are we spending little time on, but would be of so much more value to the client if we spent more time towards this effort? And then question number 3, what, in your words, is your responsibility? This is an important question because oftentimes employees don't know necessarily what their areas of responsibility are. Instead, they think they do a smorgasbord of activities and responsibilities for that business. But instead, you need to ask them exactly what they think their role and their responsibilities are in the job that you have given them. And then allow them the opportunity to answer those questions and have those tough conversations about refining what those roles and responsibilities really should be. Your team members may be doing a lot more than you think they are, or they might not know what they're expected to do on a regular basis. You would be shocked, and just because somebody's been with you 10 or 15 or 20 years, I still ask them these questions and still am shocked at the answers that I receive back. These are easy questions on the surface, but are going to require a lot of tough work and a lot of tough listening skills and a lot of tough planning with your team to really get them refined and make sure that you're delivering the most amount of value to clients. So as that financial advisor, as a business owner, the practice manager, the team member, and these podcasts, these are great for team members too. I have so many of our own team that listen to them and say, you know what, we talked about this a few months ago, but hearing on the podcast, something just clicked for me. All right, this has been Jamie Shalansky in an episode of Worlds to Conquer, where we've been unpacking some of the surge and how we ask our questions to our employees to refine what they are doing and where we're spending the most amount of time to provide value, or the least amount of time that we could be spending more time towards. So as always, go find people who share your values and change the world.
Hold on before we go. Something that you need to know. This isn't tax, legal, or investment advice. That isn't our intent. Information designed to change lives. Financial Financial planning can make you thrive. Start today, don't think twice. Be a better husband, father, mother, and wife. The perfect RIA